Hi, parents. Deacon John Wilson here. I'm the Education and Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. And I'm sure glad you're here seeing this video. It's a very important video about the parent loan, which is a form of student loan for college. I'll explain that. And I want you to know everything you can know about that loan before you take it out so that you know how to make an informed consumer decision about that loan. I just did a video about the cost of private college where I talked a little about the parent loan, but not a lot. I talked more about cost and about the importance of options that reduce the cost. But here I'm going to talk about the parent loan itself. Before I do that, I have to give a shout out to, I think, the most important educational time of the year for parents. It's the time after Christmas, known as the Epiphany in the church. It's a time of after it in the Eastern Orthodox Church where they celebrate, just as important as Christmas, when the wise men came to bring gifts to baby Jesus. And they let King Herod know that they were doing that, and he wanted to do harm to the baby Jesus. So he said, when you come back, let me know where he is so I can bring him gifts. And of course, right before they went to see him, but after they saw the baby Jesus, they were told to go back a different way. And ever since that time, the term epiphany has come to mean it's the time of the year where we make resolutions for sure, but that we should make substantive changes in our perspective and the way we see things as parents. And so every year in our program, we call it Educational Epiphany, this 2 or 3 week period. And I'm starting off with this video, that period. And that's why I have the background of the wise men to make the point that we need to, as parents, look at the things, the thoughts and the things we were doing before, and really pray and ask God to show us the right way to do it, the right way to go, so that we don't go back and cause harm to something that's valuable to us. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. Let me see if I can't bring this up for you. Here we are. So it's all about parent loans. There it is over here. That's what I'm going to cover today. And I'm hoping to give you some great information that will help you to save money for college. That's why I have the picture of the money there, because that's an important part of this. Why do we have federal loans for college? I think that's important. Why do we have federal loans for college? All right. Need-based federal and state, need-based federal aid, well, I should say federal and state grants plus merit scholarships will never cover the cost of college. A lot of people will say, I have a free ride. They'll tell you they have a free ride, and they'll give you this impression that there's some kind of secret they tapped into. Most of them are not telling you the full story. Really, it's that there are loans for college. Every student's going to have loans. I'll explain that in a minute. And so really, it's not a free ride once you have loans. We got to stop thinking that if there are loans, we're getting a free ride. You're not getting a free ride. And that's one thing that's going to come out of this presentation. But anyway, the federal and state grants and merit scholarships, even if a student has a full athletic scholarship, it turns out they're still going to have a student direct loan because students can't work and the coaches want them to have spending money. They'll make them take out that direct loan because they won't travel with students and let them be on the team without them having spending money. So keep that in mind, that even so-called full athletic scholarships really aren't athletic scholarships. And I know a lot of you feel athletes should be paid. I do too, but that's another whole issue. So we have tuition and fees plus room and board. That's called the direct cost for college. In other words, parents, it's what's going to be on the bill. On the bill is the direct cost for college. There's other costs of college, but I don't consider them important in this video, and really that important at all, because nobody's going to say, well, I've got to pull you out of that school because the airfare, I can't afford the airfare. I've never had anybody say that. Or, man, those books are so expensive, I've got to pull you out of college. It's always going to be these direct costs that make people come to that conclusion that they can't afford for their students to be in college. Tuition fees and room and board, represented by the blue bar. And that's paid for two ways. First of all, by Pell Grant, Cal Grant, university grants, and merit awards. I could say also athletic scholarships too. And that takes, the red part there. Let's just say that. And I've tried to proportionally draw that bar for most middle-class families who make, say, more than $60,000 or $70,000. Okay, we talked about this a little last time. And that's your free money for college. Okay. But then you have this part here, which is going to be the dollars in cash that you set aside for college in a 529 account or a savings account, or maybe in your regular budget, you can take money in cash, but that won't always be enough. It nearly always is not enough because 90% of parents have not saved for college. It may be more like 95%. I read it in an article. I know I never saved for college, and my students, not for college, I was saving, but not for college. And so I had to pay for it, pay part of the cost for one of my students. And it did alter my life. I had to do things differently for a while. But then there are also loans. There's also loans for college as well, okay? The two categories of student loans should be considered. Again, since loans are a big part of it, as you see over here, they're a major part of how you pay for college. You can see it's pretty substantive here. And keep in mind, if this red area here is higher, that's going to be lower for sure. So when there's like in CSU, if you are making below 40,000, the red will be all the way up here, but you'll still have a small amount that's for cash out of pocket or loans. It'd just be smaller. But for most of my families, the income is going to be high enough where you're going to be expected to pay a significant amount for college, and that's where loans come in. So there's two types of, quote, student loans. Notice I have that in quotes because the parent loan is considered a student loan. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So student loans consist of direct student loans that are also called Stafford loans, and then a thing called Perkins loans, which some schools who have low default rates are allowed to offer. And those loans are fully forgivable. They're forgivable loans. Let's go ahead and talk about those later. But here, then there's also the parent loan for undergraduate students. But notice I classify that under student loans. It is a type of student loan. It's also called a plus loan, parent loan for undergraduate students. I'll call it a plus loan most of this presentation, or just say parent loan. Okay, those are the ways that we refer to it, all right? And they're for parents. And parents means, for purpose of this discussion, it means the adoptive parent or the blood parent or the legal parents can take out loans. It turns out that if there's a step parent, they can't take out loans. Turns out a grandparent can't take out loans. Turns out an aunt or a sister or brother, none of those can take out a parent loan. And in fact, it's considered a serious fraud for that to happen. And they uncover that pretty easily because they're asking for the right information and they'll know about it. So be extremely careful about that. On the plus loan, there's no loan forgiveness and there is a credit check. There's no loan forgiveness for parent loans at this time. I've never even heard it discussed that parent loans will be forgiven. The current discussion we're having as a nation, as I understand the discussion, is student loans. And that's the biggest flaw because in that whole discussion, because parent loans actually make up a high percentage of the loans for college. I think it's 2/3 to 80% of the loans that are taken out are in fact parent loans, okay? And there will be a credit check for the parent loan. Perkins loans are totally forgivable student loan. There is no credit check for those. Direct student loans also, there's no credit check for those either. There is forgiveness of student loans right now if they become a federal government employee, and in many cases, a substantial portion is forgiven, but it has to be federal government. If they get into AmeriCorps, which is a federal government created volunteer organization after college, I wish they would expand that program. Maybe some other time I'll talk about that. Peace Corps service, if they serve 3 years in Peace Corps, they serve 2, they can get a little bit of forgiveness now. And then Teach for America. Teach for America is another program where you can get loan forgiveness. Okay. Now, why students should pay for college needs discussion, because a lot of you might feel when you see this, oh, I'll just take care of the students' loans myself, I'll pay cash or whatever. It's because you have a student loan and you feel bad. You don't want your student to have loans, or you had one, you had to pay it off. You remember how hard it was. You can do that. It is a free country. You'll see in a moment. I highly recommend against it. And then I'll talk about that in a moment. Why students should pay for college. Students should pay or owe something for their college. They will receive something of lifelong value. They should pay. They are and become more motivated to complete college. You know, if there's no skin in the game and there's no price to pay, I just will find it hard for students. And I've seen this for them to even worry about. And you'll be so upset if they have that attitude. I know you're thinking your student won't, but only 50% of students finish college right now. On our program, it's higher, but only 50%. It's higher for a lot of reasons. But in the country as a whole, only 50% finish college. And then parents, I've seen them stuck with that bill and stuck with their loans only, and the student has gotten away pretty much scot-free. I think they should have skin in the game. It gives you leverage with them if you want them to really give it a good effort in college. And remember, the tools you'll have to leverage them are going to be much less after they get to college when they're older and out of your house. Many times parents regret their own student loans and do not want their youth to have loans. You can pay their loans or pay the additional costs in cash, and it's up to you. But I already told you what I think about it in the bullet before. The monthly payment for the direct student loan is manageable. Remember, the Perkins Loan is forgivable. The monthly payment is manageable if the students plan a sustainable career independent of major. A life plan is needed to allow loans to be repaid. Now, I have a lot to say about that, and if you're in the class of 2022 parents, they're your students in that class, that's what our next meeting is going to be about. Going to be the things that students need to do to develop this life plan and how it helps you in your indebtedness too. Here's some other loan facts. Talking about the direct student loan and the Perkins loan, they are 2.75% interest rate currently. The parent loan will be 6.28%. As I see we're coming out of the pandemic, it's going to revert to the old percentages, and we're at 6.28%. I've not heard any discussion anywhere about reducing that parent loan back down to the 4% it was at. It's going back to 6%, and you'll see that what the effect it has in the last few graphs I present today. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that. Again, I'm going to try to get through this presentation as quickly as I can, but this is a very information-filled presentation. I better make sure I do it justice. The maximum loan lengths are 7 years for a student loan and 7 years for a plus. Actually, you can get 10 years for a parent loan. I highly recommend against it. All my charts will be for 7 years. I started to do the 10-year chart. It starts to get into your retirement at that point. I just prefer not to get into that. Extensions are possible. Like I said, you can extend it to 10 years, either one of them, but the cost will dramatically increase. How about monthly payments for the student direct loan? It's going to be at a 2.75% interest rate, 7 years or 84 months. The payment's going to run at $357.74 if they take the maximum amount of direct loan, and I'll cover that very shortly here. Oh, here it is here, the $27,000 in principal, and you have about $3,050 plus 16 cents of interest. And so if you took all your loans and maximum, it'll be, and you took them for 5 years even, I'd say if students did it for 5 years. I may have did it for 4.5. I think I did it for 5. Your payment's going to be $357.74. Obviously, if they finish in 4 years and it's lower, like $22,000, they'll still run about $270 a month. And my opinion remains that if you can't pay a payment of not even $400 a month when you leave college, even if you're living in your own place. And I'm going to present budgets and show you students how to do that, by the way, in upcoming sessions. So please be involved. If they can't make that payment, parents, and they went to the wrong school, or they didn't look at the things I'm going to show them about how to prepare for their careers, how to start making money while you're in college and right when you leave for college, okay? So if there's some thought given to career, then this shouldn't be a problem. So I'm not one of those people that feels that 27,000 is too much, or the 22,000. I'm sure I'd like to have students not have any loans for college, but I feel they should pay something for college. And it would be okay if it was just a student loan. But as you'll see in a moment, it's also the parent loan, which can be theoretically hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of student being in college. Students who pay on time in 3.5 years, pay on time for 3.5 years, can get 3 years of loan forgiveness. It's possible. And also they could accelerate their payments, pay faster, and reduce the cost of the loan as well, reduce the interest. You can see it's $3,000 in interest. Two types of student direct loans are subsidized loans, where all the interest is paid by the federal government while the student is in college. The interest does accrue 6 months after the student leaves college. So if notice it says leaves college, not graduate. If a student stops out of college, they owe on the loans. They still have to pay the loans if they stop out of college. So hopefully they've gotten credits for that so they can transfer, or go back to school at some point. But a lot of times they're failing out, so that money was totally wasted. Now, I've also seen it wasted in 2-year college. Students will take out loans and get checks back. And in fact, there's advertisements I've heard on the radio, hey, get money in your pocket and all that. That is wrong, because that money is then burned up and not getting the right amount of credits. And then you're hitting your maximums. And there is a maximum amount you can take out loans, as you'll see later. So subsidized loans, and in the first year of the loan, it's going to be $3,500 for a subsidized loan. Second year will be $4,500. In the third and fourth year, and a fifth if you need it, are $5,500. Notice it gets more and more each year, which theoretically makes the parent loan less, but it shows the government's willingness to give you more if you've been there longer. The maximum subsidized loan is $19,000. You might wonder, well, wait a minute, you said 27. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. These are subsidized loans, okay? The unsubsidized loans, which students end up having to take anyway, that's a loan where the interest is not paid by the feds. So it's going to accumulate while they're in school. It's $2,000 each year plus 5 years for 5 years, plus an additional $4,000 per year that the plus loan is rejected. So if you apply for a parent loan, it's rejected. The students can get $4,000 per year on top of all that. I didn't include that in the maximum though. So it's $2,000 a year or $8,000 for 4 years. That's how we get to the 27. So your first year of college, students and parents, they'll be 55, they'll be every student, if they're breathing, they can fog up a mirror, I usually say, they will get a student loan offer of $5,500. The $3,500 for the unsubsidized, right? Plus the $2,000 for the unsubsidized loan. That makes $5,500. So every student's going to have that. You might say, well, we're not going to accept it. Again, you get to the students going for free. That's up to you. And if you don't accept that loan, parents, you have to write a check and pay it, and pay that additional $5,500. Schools aren't going to go, we'll find more money for you at that point. They assume that you're going to take that loan out, and the colleges assume they're going to collect that money. That becomes important. That's why a lot of them will want you to sign up for your loan early. Once you've selected the school, they'll pressure you. So they want to collect that money as soon as possible, put it on their cash accounts, on their accrued accounting, so they know that you're going to be paying for college. The maximum unsubsidized loan, therefore, is $22,000 when you count the $4,000 per year in addition to the $2,000 for each year. All right, the typical 4-year West Angeles student, the ones that do 3.5 years, and about 1/3 of our students finish college in 3 or 3.5 years. This is how the loans will look there for you. See, this is kind of how it looks. You know, they take, this is how it works out with the subsidized and the unsubsidized. You can see that in my examples, I have them taking the 3,500, not the full 45 each time. Then there's year 4 when they're there a half year, as opposed to a full year here. So you can see it's a little less cost if you finish school early. And the unsubsidized, I show it here. Again, you might say, well, I'm not going to take the $2,000 one because of the interest. But the problem with that is it's only a small amount of interest anyway. It's a very low interest loan. I think it's 0.8 or something percent on the unsubsidized. The thing is, if you don't take that loan, you've got to still write the check to cover that money. And a lot of parents who are taking out parent loans anyway, just assume not do that. And that's why I say they should pay something. I mean, you're going into debt in your parent loan, they should pay something for college. By the way, heavily implied here in the previous view graph is that the direct student loan isn't nearly enough to cover the additional costs for college. When you have tuitions that just tuition alone for some of these schools is $50,000 and $60,000, you can see that this is just a drop in the bucket, $5,500. Other payment alternatives to the PLUS loan each year. Well, before you take a parent loan out, you should look at alternatives. Yes, parents, you should look at alternatives and then make your PLUS loan smaller, maybe, or a last alternative. You could take loans against your 401k retirement or your 403b or your deferred 257. It's much better to take the loan against it than to withdraw funds from it. You take a loan, there's no tax hit on it, and you're paying yourself back during the year as you're making payments on your from your income. Some of it's being diverted to paying off the loan, right? Automatically goes paying off the loan, and you can just increase your 401k, your 403b, or your 257 to cover the amount of the loan payments for that period. Okay. So loans against the 401k. I mean, if you have a 401k of 50 or 60,000, you take a loan out for 20 and try to lower your PLUS the first year. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's okay, and you're at least reducing the loan hit on the loan hit for a year anyway. How about withdrawals? I don't like withdrawals from a retirement account. Talk to your accountant. You'll have a tax hit. You say, well, mine was after tax, and so I'm not going to have a tax hit. There will still be a penalty, but so talk to your tax man about, or your HR department. Loans from a relative, I don't like those because there's going to be strings attached. Because human nature, they're going to expect some input into the decisions on your student's career, and it can get pretty ugly in families when that happens. And it's one of my regrets with one of my youth in college that I did that or allowed it to happen. It didn't seem to work out very well. Can you raise your income? That's a good question. A lot of us parents, we can do things to increase our income. That's a good question to ask. Can you do that during this period? Some of you can do it in a way that there's not a lot big tax hit either. That's definitely an alternative to a large parent loan. But this one's tough because if you don't know that, you really can't immediately do anything about the PLUS loan. It could affect the PLUS loan for future years if you figure that out. What some people do is they use the room where their students were, I'm being very honest, and they start making money that way, renting it out or whatever. Or they figure out how to use their property that way when the students left. They're only back for holidays, or they give them a different sleep arrangement while they do that. But can you raise your income is an interesting question. Can you make a payroll withholding change? Probably. Talk to your accountant, because you're going to have the educational costs of the student you can write off. The so-called tax opportunity grant is really a tax credit that you get for your student being in college. You might be able to change your payroll withholding. Again, talk to your accountant or your tax person about that. You can make some major budget reductions like sibling schools. How is the private school working out? Maybe Talk to me. There may be another way to productively and in a high quality way educate the siblings. You say, well, the other one got private school, but the other one you didn't have to deal with somebody in college. But now you got a student in college. That may be a way for you to run your house differently. Technology reductions. There's always a way to change your technology. You know, the cable, the internet. For example, I got rid of cable a couple of years ago. I didn't have a college student, but that change saved me so much money, and I could add other great services digitally to my house. I'm still saving, 70 or 80 a month from that change, just from moving to the internet. I get my TV from a digital provider. You can ask me about that if you want. You'll save a lot of money. First 2 years, they'll give it to you real cheap too, and then they'll go to the regular price, and it's never as high as cable. I saw people saw what my cable would have been now, and I'm just shaking my head. I'm saving a lot of money. Car sales and payoffs. I mean, you can sell a second or a third car if your student isn't there. Or you might be able to pay off a car now and save yourself payment and pay. Dave Ramsey has a lot of good stuff on that about how to reduce your indebtedness in the house. Go to his website, read some of his books. He's really good. Okay. Student behaviors in college that tend to reduce the PLUS loan. So students can do stuff to reduce the PLUS loan, right? They can be active on campus. They could have 2 to 3 roommates in years 2 through 4, and you can save a lot of money. 30 to 40% of your PLUS loan can be saved that way. That's why I want students to be active on campus in their first year. I like to even see them not working so they can socialize and meet people and form relationships and find those roommates, because that will save you money in years 2 through 4. Okay. One major directly related to a career. One of their majors should be directly related to a career path. If you can't relate it to a career path, don't do it. I mentioned this before, like the so-called studies, blank studies, Black studies, African studies, women's studies, gender studies. These are wonderful things to study, but they should really be minors. You're not getting a job in that. Or even not even a major at all if the school doesn't have minors. Why not just take the classes as electives, get in the clubs? That's how you're going to learn about those. Don't make a major around it. I got so many of my students that are just doing nothing after college after having majors like that. Have a plan for how you're going to have a career, and you'll be able to pay off those loans. And parents, you get to reduce your PLUS loan because the students will have a great job, and they're going to have a great job. Maybe there's some kind of arrangement you can make with the student, or more importantly, students graduate faster, and you don't have that additional years of college if you're picking the right major. Classes in summer, because they'll be engaged. Classes in summer are important. We're offering some classes in spring and summer, always at West Angeles, online classes with Trade Tech. Be proactive. Students need to take actions to prevent D's and F's, because D's and F's means you're going to have a longer time in college. Develop a study process that works. Oh, back to the D's and F's. It could also mean you stop out students, and that's costing your parents and you a lot of money. Develop a study process, well, it costs a lot of money, get you a lot of debt for no reason. Now, when you get a D or F, you're wasting your parents' loan funds. And you're wasting your own direct loan if you think about it. Develop a study process that works. This will be covered in future sessions. Please be in those sessions. We teach you how to study in college, how to organize your time in college. These are all things that increase the likelihood that you'll finish college in 4 years or less, thereby reducing the PLUS loan over your whole time in college. You should really desire that your parents not keep debt any longer than they have to, given they're approaching their retirement. And retirement they're entitled to. Academically prepare properly for college writing, college math, and biology this summer. These are course areas that are a problem for stopping out. If your writing has always been a problem, you need to get into a class and get better at your writing from a two-year college maybe. If your math has always been weak and you're taking a career where you got to take math, get that straight. Use this summer coming up and even the spring to get stronger in those areas. If you're going to be pre-med, you need to be ready to take biology. So maybe you should take biology in a two-year college and get whatever grade you get there. If it's not a high enough, if it's a D or an F, great. You've done a trial run, you take it in your college, you'll do much better. That's a commonly tough course for freshmen, meaning the biology class, excuse me. Important things to know about the parent loan. The loan is a federal government loan, not a bank loan. It's a federal government loan. Yes, you can find a similar loan for students without going through the feds, but it will be 14.5%. You're not going to say it's going to cost you more, parents, because they're going to make you co-sign or co-borrow with the student. So if you try to make it a student loan, look at the interest rate you're going to have to pay. I said you because you're a co-borrower. If the student doesn't do well in school, it's your loan. You can go this way, but the interest rate is way higher. And remember, those payments were structured for the lower interest rate earlier. Okay, it'll become your loan anyway when you're a co-borrower going your credit record, not only your students. So a commercial loan, you might think is a way to deal with it, but in practice, it's a problem. You start the process of the PLUS loan by asking your youth's college about their process for your application for the parent loan. We'll say more about that. You will get a commercial credit check for the loan by a TransUnion or another major credit reporting company. So you can get a credit check, okay? It's a consumer loan. It needs to be treated as such. You'll be initially rejected for the loan. Notice the word initially, if for any one of the following circumstances: a federal state income tax lien or levy, automatic rejection for a parent loan. Default on any payment agreement. I'd say within 5 years, you won't get that loan. Mortgage foreclosure in the last 5 years, you won't get that loan. Chapter 9 or 11 bankruptcy in the last 5 years. Chapter 13 is okay if there's no default in the payment arrangement. Charge off, that should be off, not of, I'm sorry, or existing 90-day delinquency of more than $2,085 on a debt. This is the one that's most easily appealed. It can be most easily appealed, this particular one, okay? So you want to talk to me if you're rejected for this. And the others, it's very difficult to appeal them, but you might be able to appeal 90-day delinquencies or charge-offs. Voluntary or involuntary repossession without an agreement to pay the delinquent obligation. So if you get if you have something that was repossessed, say within the last 4 or 5 years, but you never went back to pay the delinquency, and even if they sold it and got their money, the PLUS loan is going to be hard to get approved. And usually when you want to go back and get that straightened out because you want to appeal, it's difficult to find the original person who they've sold that debt. It's very difficult to get someone to take it off your record. Remember, in 5 years, that doesn't matter. You will be okay at that point. But we're talking about short term when you have the PLUS loan agreement. I'm sorry. Okay. And again, if you have any questions about any of this, just put it in the comments below, and I will respond. I'll get back with you for sure, because this is a highly technical area and you may have things you want to ask me about. Right off of an existing, but yeah, if you somehow avoided legally a federal loan debt, you're not going to be able to get a parent loan. And by the way, if you've defaulted on your student loan and you haven't made arrangements, you made arrangements, you'll be okay, then the parent loan will not be approved. There's a lot of ways. It's getting pretty common. I think 1 out of 3 parent loan applications is denied. And sometimes parents had no idea it'd be denied. And those are very difficult because you have to tell a student they can't get in. So a lot of you might want to, they can't go to a school after all, after you've promised it to them. Some of you might wonder, can you know early? But you can't. Yeah, you have to pick the school and apply for it later, usually after the May 1st deadline. I wish there was a way to get pre-approved for PLUS loans. I've forgotten that that's a concern that I have in this process. It really is something that needs to be reformed so you can know ahead of time if you're approved. Even as a junior, you can see if you can get pre-approved maybe and get an idea of whether it'd be okay to take that loan out. I wish they would correct that problem. I don't think people in Washington know enough to be able to do it. Anyone I would suggest it to, I think I have suggested it to people, my congressperson, people like that, and they have no idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, let's continue. Some other things to know. Number 8, be sure to check off that you want the school to calculate the amount of your PLUS loan when you are applying. Okay, that's pretty important. You might wonder why. You want to be sure the loan will cover the cost, and it's hard to know all the direct costs, and schools are not very clear about that, especially the one-time cost items. They can throw things on there, and I think you should let them figure out the PLUS loan the first year. Then maybe in subsequent years, I think it'd be okay for you to select the amount that you'll do your PLUS loan. But the first year, let them figure it out. They're going to give you a refund if you've overpaid. Let's talk about that. If you're approved for a parent loan, 1/2 of the loan will be made available for the fall semester, and 1/2 will be made available for the spring semester, both 10 days prior to the first day of class. Okay, so the monies will be split in half. So your student has to qualify each semester academically to get the parent loan. I should probably say here that you can get a refund of the parent loan. I think I say it later, I might as well say it now. You want to select that the student, that you get the check for the refund and not the student. You're entitled to pay yourself back for books and all that stuff. Then you can dole it out to your student. That's the way the system was intended to run. After all, this is a parent loan, not a direct student loan. So you get the refund, not your student, okay? And you should check off the box that you're going to get. If I was to apply for you, I'd make sure that that's done. I don't want to see students getting, thousands of dollars while they're in college with no accountability or no direct accountability over it. Some students will know to get it back to you, and talk to you about it. I think most, but I think it should go to you. You should be paid back for flying them there and the books and clothes and all these things you did to get them to the college. And you'll be flying them home during the year and buying them computer equipment and all that kind of stuff. Steps for getting a PLUS loan: contact the school, ask is there a form. Sometimes they have their own form. A lot of Black schools have a form you have to fill out first. And they'll actually, I think San Jose State is the one CSU where they'll apply for the PLUS loan for you. They send you a form. They'll probably, however, most schools will send you to studentloans.gov. You log in with your FOSTA username and password, not your youth's. It's your loan, not theirs. You look for apply for PLUS and follow all the steps. You click on that you want the school to determine the amount, like we said earlier. You click that you want to receive the refund, not your student. And you will know in 20 to 30 seconds if you're approved. The computer will tell you. Okay. If you're approved, it'll give you a link to click on the master promissory note, get in there and fill that out. And then the loan will be approved, will be funded to the student's account at the proper times, 10 days before each semester. The last chart I'm going to show you is the parent loan table. I promised I would. You might want to take a picture of this page, parents, because it's telling you for various loan amounts what your minimum monthly payment will be at the 6.28% interest rate we discussed. And look at the total of all the payments for the life of the loans. So this is not just 1 year, this is 4 years. So let's suppose you have 20,000 in loans for 4 years. That's $80,000. Do you understand how to use it now, right? you should look at it for 4 years when they get their first award, when you figure out what your first parent loan is. So worst case, it's 80,000. But as I explained, it'll probably go down each year if your student follows that list of things I talked about earlier. The monthly payment will be $1,179.72 for 84 months or 7 years. Think about that, parents. An additional bill of close to $1,200 for 7 years that can impact on your credit. The total of all the payments will be $100,000, even the 99,000, almost 100, even though the original loan was only 80. That's 20,000 in interest, 19,074 in interest. What if the loan? What if it was 30,000 a year? Then that's 120, right? You're going to pay $1,769 per month. You're going to have $28,600 in interest. So that's the way you use this table. Go ahead and take pictures of it, or you can just freeze this video, or you might want to take a picture. That's the way to go. If you need a copy of this presentation, please also get a hold of me. I'll be glad to send you a copy. I don't know if I'm going to have a chance in the session to run these view graphs. I might just flip through them real quick and talk about the video. It's going and encourage you to watch the video. So this might be the last time you see this. Make sure you look at this chart. I really want parents to this year to budget what my payments are going to be. Can I afford these payments? Count up the costs, as it says in Luke 14:26-28. Count up the costs and see if you're able to do it with this minimum monthly payment. All right, I hope this helps. God bless you. I'm sorry the video went a little long, but this is one of those videos where it had to, I think. I hope it stirred your interest. I tried to keep it interesting as I could, but I think it's just a lot of very valuable information about parent loans. Once again, I encourage you to get really involved in this process, really determine and figure out what the cost of college will be. In this case, what the cost of the loans will be. Our next video will be, in fact, about how to read the financial aid award to determine the cost of college. God bless you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.